Welcome back. In this unit, we are going to see the sources of water, public water supply system, the planning, its objectives, design period, and population forecasting. And next, we are going to see water demand, sources of water and their characteristics, and then development and selection of source, the source of water quality, its characterization, and its significance. And finally, we'll move on with the drinking water quality standards. First, the planning of water supply system plays a crucial role in the water supply engineering. The objective of water supply and various sources of water are the initial things to know in water supply engineering. It is also important to know that water quality that is distributed to determine whether it is safe for human consumption or not. This unit covers the concept of water supply, and various factors such as planning and objectives are also included in this unit. The concept of design period and various forecasting methods are also included to give a clear understanding. The various standards of drinking water quality are explained, and water sources are also added for clear understanding. First, we'll move on with the public water supply system. We'll get water from different sources. One is, we can call it as, say, rain. We'll get from groundwater, and we have more water from sea. So first we classify the public water supply system from various sources. The first source is called surface water source. The second source is subsurface water source or groundwater. And the third source is through rainwater harvesting or groundwater recharge. So surface water, we call it as river waters, pond water, or what are the waters which is available beneath the surface of the earth. We call it as surface water. These waters will be diverted to storage tanks, and then it is very much important to pre-treatment it, in the sense, since it is in the open surface, more amount of dust particles, wastages will be settled, floating on the water surface, or it has to be purified. So pre-treatment is very much important for surface water sources, and then we will send it for treatment. So it is called as water treatment process. We'll see the water treatment process in detail in the further units. And next, the treated water will be sent for storage. So this is one segment of surface water source, which is a public water supply system. And the second segment of public water supply system is subsurface water source or groundwater. Mostly groundwater has been used for many village areas and urban areas. So even groundwaters will be sent for, it is diverted to storage tanks, and then it is transported to household storage, and then it is distributed, and then it is sent for consumers. And finally, the rainwater harvesting. Each and every house in the urban area or village area, they have rainwater harvesting. The rainwaters are stored in a specific area, and then it is sent for disinfection of stored water, and then it is used for household filtration and then to the consumers. So this process is called public water supply system. And next we see what are the objectives of public water supply system. The first objective is collection of water. Second objective is conveyance of water to storage area. Third objective is treatment of water to convert it into potable water. Potable means a drinking water. And fourth objective is distribution of potable water to different parts of city or the rural areas. So these are the objectives of public water supply. Next, what is known as a design period? The term design period for a water distribution system refers to the duration during which the different components of water supply schemes are designed. The different components of water supply schemes include 1. Storage of water by dams and reservoirs, 2. Water treatment units, 3. Electric motor pumps, 4. Water conveyance pump pipes, 5. Water distribution systems. So, design period has the term where water distribution system refers to the duration during which the different components of water supply scheme are designed. Next, we'll move on with the topic called population forecasting. What is known as population forecasting? Population forecasting is defined as the method of determining the expected population for a particular design period of water supply system with the help of the study and analysis of future events and available records. So, a system, since this is a public water supply system, we have to make a system in which how much water is required for next future decades. So this is known as population forecasting. We have been taking the survey of last few decades, like say 5 decades, and we will know that how much population is available and how many people are consuming the water and what will be the demand of water. Same way, we can also predict how much water is required for future decades. There are different methods for population forecasting. One is we can say mathematical method, and two is decreasing rate of growth method. Fourth is graphical extension method. One is mathematical method. We can classify into three types of method. One method is arithmetic increase method. Second method is geometrical increase method, or we'll call it as Euler-Bencasi method. And third method we'll call it as incremental increase method. So we'll see these methods in an example in the future classes. Let us see an example for population forecasting. So there are three mathematical methods: arithmetic increase method, geometric increase method, and incremental increase method. So this is an example. The population of 5 decades from 1930 to 1970 are given below in the table. Find out the population after 1, 2 and 3 decades beyond the last known decade by using arithmetic increase method, geometric increase method and incremental increase method. So in the table they have given year versus population. Here we have 1930, 1940, 1950, 1960 and 1970. And population we have in the year 1930 25,000, 1940 28,000, 1950 34,000 and 1960 42,000 and 1970 47,000. So they have asked to find out the population after 1, 2 and 3 decades beyond the last known decade. So last known decade we have is 1970. So they are asking to find the population of 1 decade, which is 1980, 2 decade 1990 and 3 decade 2000. So let us find using these three methods. First we move on with the arithmetic increase method. Arithmetic increase method. So increase in population, let us have X. Increase in population, it's known as X for each decade. The total increase and average increase per decade, we can call it as x dash, are computed below. So let's use a tabular column based on the table they have given in the question. Year, population, and increase in population, which is known as X. So here we had 1930, 1940, 1950, 1960 and 1970. And the population we had 25,000, 28,000, 34,000 and 42,000, and finally we had 47,000. So how to find increase in population? Say we can say from the year 1940 to 1930 to 1940 we had 25, we have moved from 25,000 to 28,000. So the increase in population is 3,000. Similarly, from 1940 to 1950, a decade, we had an increase in population from 28,000 to 34,000, which is 6,000. And from the year 1950 to 1960, we had increase in population from 34,000 to 42,000, which is 8,000. And similarly, 1960 to 1970, we had 42,000 to 47,000 increase in population, which is we get 5,000. So this is the table which we have to find it first for the arithmetic increase method. So before that, let us sum up this. The total increase in population is 22,000. When we add 6 plus 3 plus 8 plus 5, we get 22,000. So now we have to find the average increase per decade. So average increase per decade, which is known as X dash, which is equal to 22,000 divided by, we had 4 differences in the earlier sums, 3,000, 6,000, 8,000 and 5,000. So 22 divided by 4 will get 5,500. So the X dash value, which is average increase per decade, is 5,500. So now for arithmetic increase method, we had a formula which is known as, we can say, the future population are now computed by using arithmetic increase method, in which the formula we can call it as Pn is equal to P naught plus n into x bar. So this is the formula which you have to remember for arithmetic increase method. So let's see what we can able to implement input for this formula, so that we can able to find the population in further decades. A, population after one decade beyond 1970. So we have to remember that in the question they have given that we have to find 1 decade, 2 decade, 3 decade beyond the last decade, which is 1970, which I have already told that it is 1980. We have to find or predict what will be the population after 1970, a decade after 1970. So when we apply in this formula, we'll get P 1980 is equal to P 1970 plus 1 into x bar. We can also put like this is the first decade P1, which is equal to P 1970. We had the population strength as 47,000. So we have to mention as 47,000 plus 1 into x bar we have found at like 5,500. So when we sum it up, we'll get 52,500. So this will be the population in the year 1980. So similarly, we need to find for second decade, 2 decade, which is 1990, and 3 decade, which is 2000. Let us find it. So let's put B, population after 2 decades beyond 1970, which is nothing but that is 1990. So P of 1990 is equal to P of 1970 plus 2 into x bar, which is nothing but from the question P of 1970, the population in the year 1970 is 47,000 plus 2 into x bar is the difference 5,500. We'll get, when we sum it up, we'll get 58,000. This is the population in the year 1990. So similarly, the population after 3 decades, population after 3 decades beyond 1970, that is in the year 2000. So P of 2000 is equal to P of 1970 plus 3 into x bar, which is nothing but 47,000 plus 3 into 5,500, which is nothing but we'll get 63,500. So this is the population in the year 2000. So now we have found out how many population will be there after 3 decades, 2 decades and 1 decade, in which we might have able to know what will be the population forecasting using arithmetic increase method. So next we will see the second method, which is known as geometric increase method. The second method we can find using geometric increase method. So similarly, for geometric increase method, we need to put a table or column. Year, population, increase in population in each decade. And then we have to find the percentage increase in population, that is growth rate, in which we can put growth rate R, which is nothing but percentage increase in population. So this is a table of column 1, and this is table of column 2, and this is table of column 3, and this is table of column 4. Now in the given data, they have given the population in the year 1930, 1940, 1950, 1960 and 1970, which is nothing but in the year 1930 we had 25,000, and 28,000 in the year 1940, and 34,000 in the year 1950, and 42,000 in the year 1960, and 47,000 in the year 1970. So the increase in population we have found using arithmetic increase method. Similarly, here also we can able to find increase in population from 1930 to 40 is 3000, and this is 6000, and this is 8000, and this is 5000. Now we have to find the growth rate. Growth rate, which is nothing but it is the increase in population in each decade divided by population, which is nothing but, say example, in the year 1930, the growth rate will be 3000 divided by 25,000 into 100. So that will get 12 percentage is the percentage increase in population. So we can mention that column number 3 divided by column number 2 into 100. This will be the growth rate. So next we will find for 1940 to 1950, which is nothing but 6000 divided by 28,000 into 100, which is equal to 21.4 percentage. And similarly for 1950 to 1970, 8000 divided by 34,000 into 100 will get 23.5 percentage. And similarly 1960 to 1970, the increase in population is 5000 divided by 42,000 into 100, which is nothing but 11.9 percentage. So next we'll find what is the geometric increase method. How can we able to predict the population? So now we have to find the geometric mean of the growth rate. So the geometric mean of the growth rate R, which is equal to root of, say we have found the percentages, which is nothing but 12 percentage into 21.4 percentage into 23.5 percentage into 11.9 percentage. So the geometric mean of the growth rate is 4. We have found 4, so 4. So now when we calculate this, we'll get value as 16.37 percentage per decade. So now assuming the future population increase in this constant rate, we will have a formula. We had a formula for arithmetic method, increase method, as P naught. Pn is equal to P naught plus n into x bar. Similarly, for geometric increase method, we have a formula as Pn is equal to P naught 1 plus r by 100 to the power n. So this is the formula for geometric increase method. So now let us calculate for each decade. They have asked in the question, they have asked that 1 decade, 2 decade and 3 decade. We need to find for that. Before that, we know that the growth rate R is equal to 16.37 percentage per decade. So let us find, we'll have a formula like this. Say Pn is equal to P naught 1 plus, this is when we divide this 16.37 divided by 100, we'll have, say, P naught 1 plus 0.1637 to the power n. So when we add 1 plus 0.167, we'll have 1.1637 to the power n. So this is the Pn value. Now we have to substitute each and every decade in this formula. So this is geometric increase method. So now using n is equal to 1, 2, 3 decades, we have in the year population increase, say when n is equal to 1, just 1 decade, we'll have formula is Pn is equal to P naught into 1.1637 to the power n. Yeah, this is the formula. So when Pn is 1980, we have 47,000, which is 1970. P naught is 1970 into 1.1637 to the power 1. So we'll get the value as 54,694. Similarly, we got using arithmetic method. So this is in the year 1980. And then for 2 decades, n is equal to 2 decade, which is in the year 1990, we'll have Pn is equal to P naught 1.137 to the power n is equal to P 1990, which is equal to 47,000 into 1.1637 to the power n, which is nothing but it is 2. We'll get 63,647. So this is the population in the year 1990, which we have already found using arithmetic increase method. Next we will go to third decade, which is n is equal to 3. Third decade in the year 2000. So Pn is equal to P naught 1.1637 to the power n, which is equal to P 2000. P naught is, say, population is 47,000 into 1.1637 to the power 3. So we'll get answer as 74,066. So this is the population in the year 2000. So now geometric increase method is over. We'll move on to the last method which we have seen in the question. So we have been moving to the next method, which is incremental increase method. So the last method is, say, incremental increase method. So in the examination point of view, they may ask any of the method. So it is very easy and simple process, simple calculations which you can do by your own. So let's see the incremental increase method. So similarly, for each and every method we have used a tabular column. For incremental increase method also we have to use similar tabular column to find the percentage and incremental increase, increment increase percentage at the last we'll see. So first year, and second is population, third is increase in population, and fourth is incremental increase, which is nothing but increment of the increase. So we'll put a table. Similarly, this is column 1, column 2, column 3 and column 4. So in the question they are given 1930, 1940, 1950, 1960 and 1970. So population is 25,000, 28,000, 34,000, 42,000, 47,000. And similarly increase in population is 3,000, 6,000, 8,000 and 5,000. Now what is incremental increase? How can we be able to find the incremental increase?
Similarly, how we find the difference between the population in the year 1930 to 1940? 25,000, there is an increase in population of 3,000, so 28,000, which we have mentioned 3,000. So incremental increases we have to find from the increase in population, which is nothing but there is an increase in population from each and every decade. 3,000 to 6,000 is plus 3,000. So there is a positive sign where it has been increasing from 3,000 to 3,000, which is 6,000. Similarly, there is an increase from 6,000 to 8,000, which is we can mention as plus 2,000. And there is a decrease from 8,000 to 5,000 from the decade 1960 to 1970, which we can put it as minus sign. Decrease in population is minus 3,000. So this is the difference between when we compared with the previous method, a similar small difference when we compare with the geometrical method as well as arithmetic method. So this is the tabular column which is very important to find the incremental increase. So now we have to find the total. So when we sum it up, say we know that the total of increase in population is 22,000 and the total of incremental increases, when we sum it up, we'll get 2,000 plus 2,000. So this is the incremental increase total. Now we have to find the average per decade, which is x bar. So the average per decade, which is known as x bar, which we found the increase in population 22,000 divided by 4. 22,000 divided by 4. Average increase in population will get 22,000 divided by 4, which is nothing but 5,500. So similarly, for incremental increase in population, we have to find the average as y bar, which is nothing but we got 2,000 and our average is 3. So 3, which we get plus, say we get 666.66, we'll say 667. Okay. So now we have to do the calculation for arithmetic increase method and geometric increase method. We had a formula as a p n is equal to p naught, and similarly here we have a formula, say for incremental increase method, we have formula as Pn is equal to P naught plus n into x bar plus n into n plus 1 by 2 into y bar. So please note it down. This is a very important formula for finding an incremental increase method, finding this population forecasting using incremental increase method. So now our job is to substitute these values. We know that Pn is the year, in the sense decade year 1980, 1990 and 2000. P naught is the last decade value, which is 1970, and n we know that the number of decade, and x bar we know that average per decade x bar 5,500 plus similarly n, and n plus 1 by 2 we know the decade value 1 into y bar we found it as 667. When we substitute all these values, we'll get the population increase in each and every year, so that we can able to find out the population for each and every decade using this incremental increase method. So let's substitute the value 1 when n is equal to 1, which is 1 decade in the year 1980, which is nothing but P 1980 is equal to P 1970 plus 1 into x bar plus 1 into 1 plus 1 by 2 into y bar. Okay, so I'll mention dot instead of we should not confuse about x or dot. So when we substitute these values, we'll get the population in the year 1970 is 47,000 plus 1 into, now we can put 1 into x bar is 5,500 plus 1 into 1 plus 1 by 2, which is 1 into 2 by 2 into y bar is 667. So we'll get the value as 53,167 in the year 1980. So this is the population value. Similarly, we have to find for 2 decade and 3 decade. So in the year 1990, say P 1990, P 1970 plus 2 into x bar, since this is n is equal to 2 and this is 2 decade, the year 1990. So P 1990, which is equal to 1970 plus 2 into x bar plus 2 into 2 plus 1 by 2 into y bar. Simply I put a dot. So we'll get 47,000 plus 2 into 5,500. We got x bar value plus 2 into 2 plus 1, which is nothing but 3. So 2 into 3 divided by 2 into y bar value was 667. So finally when we sum it up, we'll get 60,001. So this is the population in the year 1990. And similarly for n is equal to 3, which is third decade in the year 2000, P 2000 is equal to P of 1970 plus 3 into x bar plus I'll get 3 into 3 plus 1 by 2 into y bar, which is nothing but 47,000 plus 2 into 3 into 5,500 plus 3 into say 4 divided by 2 into 667, and we substitute, we'll get the value as 67,502, which is in the year 2000. So we have found out using population forecasting using arithmetic method, arithmetic increase method, and then geometric increase method, and then we have found out finally with the incremental increase method. So thanks for watching. Thank you.
Our planet has had hundreds, perhaps thousands of water bodies. They are the primary source of water supply for industry, domestic, and agricultural use. Protected water supply refers to the supply of potable water free from impurities and disease causing germs for public use. The water resources throughout the world are threatened by overexploitation, mismanagement, and pollution. The pollutants affected water mainly come from industries, farms, and sewerage systems. Pollutants in water affects not only humans but also animals, fishes, and birds. More seriously, contaminated water is a hazard to human health, causing problem to health by the waterborne diseases like viruses, bacteria, parasites, etc. Planned water supply is necessary for balancing demands and requirements of the consumers by providing potable water in every section of a community. The importance of planned water supply are: safe water supply helps to promote better health by keeping waterborne disease away. Planned water supply helps to maintain better sanitation by supplying water to every household according to demand. It reduces environmental pollution by beautifying the surroundings by using water on fountains, gardens, etc. It also reduces the chance of fire outbreak by supplying sufficient amount of water for firefighting purpose. It promotes wealth and reduces unemployment by becoming a resources in industry. Therefore, water is considered as the most precious natural resources. Yet, it is under constant threat due to various anthropogenic activities with the resultant climate change, explosive population growth, and waste generation. There are a lot of water uses. One is commercial use, the other thing is domestic water use, and industrial water use, irrigation water use, livestock water use, mining purposes, public supply, thermal electric power water use. So these are the various types of water used in different platforms. So the very five important water supply, the water usage in cities and towns are for the purpose of domestic and then industrial and commercial, and there are demand for public uses and also fire demand. In houses, the water required for cooking, drinking, washing and bathing comes under domestic water demand. For domestic purpose, the quantity of water required highly depends on social status, habits, custom of the people and climatic condition. Under normal conditions, the average domestic consumption of water is about 135 liters per person per day. The use of air conditions, coolers, maintenance of lawns, dishwashers, home laundries increases the water consumption. For example, a survey states that the purpose of use of water, example bathing, it consumes 55 liters per person per day. The flushing of latrines, it consumes 30 liters per person per day. Cleaning of clothes, it consumes 20 liters per person per day. And cleaning and washing of residents and houses, it is consuming 10 liters per person per day. So therefore, in this slide, we can see the definition of water demand. Water demand is the measure of the total amount of water used by the customer within the water system. There are several things that can influence the amount of water demanded of the system. Example, as I said, domestic and industrial water demand, institutional and commercial water demand, demand for public, fire demand, and waste. So next we are going to see what are the sources of water and its characteristics. Sources of water. The surface water and groundwater are the very main important source of water. So, surface water are classified as lakes, ponds, streams, rivers and storage reservoirs. Groundwaters are classified as open wells, tube well, artesian well waters, springs and infiltration waters. So these are the very important sources of water where the human survives because of these sources. The surface water resources is the water in lakes, rivers, streams, or other freshwater bodies. This type of water has many uses such as industrial purposes, agricultural use, and for the generation of hydroelectrical energy. Groundwater resources are the waters available in the subsurface area of soil profile is the groundwater. This water fills up in the soil and rock for spaces. So these are the sources of water which is very important for survival of human beings. And what are the factors affecting per capita demand? The factors which affects the capita demand are size and types of city, climatic condition, quality of water, standard of living, system of supply, pressure in the supply, age of society, metering, water rates, sewerage, and lawn sprinkling. Now, what is size and type of city is being a very important factor which affects per capita demand. First, the change in demand relies on the size of city, because when the size is more, definitely the consumers are more, so there is a demand. Two, in big cities, the change in demand is restricted, whereas in smaller cities, the demand for water is less due to minimum population in small cities. So, water use is limited in small cities. The change in demand for industrial society is much lesser than the residential society, because industry consumes more water for their maintenance and for many other manufacturing products or production, so they require more amount of water when compared to residential uses. And second factor which influence or which affects per capita demand is climatic condition. In cold climates, for controlling the freezing of pipe water is wasted at the faucet, which results in greater consumption of water. In hot climate, the demand for water is increased due to bathing, lawn sprinkling, water used for spas and recreation activities. Extreme temperature produces change in demand of water. The third important factor which affects per capita demand is quality of water. Good quality water has a greater demand, whereas poor quality water reduces the consumption and usage of water. The next important factor which affects per capita demand is the standard of living. High living standards result in increase in the demand of water and produce major change in water demand. So the standard of living is also one of the very important factor, where if you have high income group category people will have more space in their houses and more requirement for the water purpose, so they consume more water. They might have a garden in their area in the home, or they may have a swimming pool, so they consume more amount of water. The next important factor which affects per capita demand is system of supply. Depending upon the usage, water is supplied continuously or periodically in the society. Discontinuous supply of water decreases the demand rate. The next important factor which affects per capita demand is pressure in the supply. Variation in pressure leads to change in demand. Supply of water with high pressure results to increase the usage of water. Low pressure water supply minimize the demand of water, because when the high pressure of water supplied to the homes or the rural areas, definitely people will consume more amount of water. When we reduce the high pressure and when we induce low pressure towards the water supply, definitely the consumption of human purpose is also will be normalized. Then age of society. Newly developing society requires more amount of water than the older society. In developing society, new houses are constructed and the owner of houses will demand the new lawn plants for their home. The next is metering. When the supply of water area metered, then the usage of water is minimalized. If we have water meter, definitely we know how much water has been consumed per houses. We can able to calculate using the meter, which records the water supplied or water consumed by a house. So we can able to limit the consumption of water by knowing the meter values. And then water rates. If you increase the water rates, then it decreases the usage and consumption of water in the metered area. So this is also one of the factor which affects per capita demand, because if the if a people is very poor economic background, definitely they can't able to afford more money for water. So definitely it is also affecting a per capita demand for water. And then sewerage. Providing the sewerage in the area where it was not installed earlier will result to increase the demand of water. And last is lawn sprinkling is one of the very important factors which affects per capita demand. When the peak demand of water decreases, when regulated, lawn sprinkling are executed. Next, we go to aquifers. There are many types of aquifers. We can call it as many types of aquifers, but very important two type of aquifer is confined aquifer and unconfined aquifer. First, what is aquifer? Aquifer is the permeable formation which possesses groundwater and also allow the water to pass through it. Aquifers are the formation which are recharged by precipitation and infiltration. Recharge of an aquifer mainly depends upon porosity and yield depends upon permeability. Now, what is confined aquifer? You can see the picture in the types of aquifer. The confined aquifers are overlain by less permeable material, whereas unconfined aquifers are open to Earth's surface and to the infiltration. So let us take a confined aquifer. When an aquifer is kept in between the two permeable layers, such aquifer is called as confined aquifer. Confined aquifer is also called pressure aquifer or artesian aquifer. These are fully filled with water and does not possess any free space in water table. Confined aquifers have water under pressure and pressure condition is recognized with piezometric surface. The piezometric surface is obtained by combining water levels at equilibrium in the tubes penetrating confined aquifer. In confined aquifer, uniform horizontal surface in a water table can be assumed as the approximate piezometric surface. When well penetrates into confined aquifer, the water level increases up to piezometric level, and when the piezometric surface of a well is above the upper confining layer, the static water level in such a well will be above the aquifer. This type of well is called artesian well. So, next we'll see what is known as unconfined aquifer. An unconfined aquifer, which contains water table in its open to Earth's surface and to infiltration. In an unconfined aquifer, water table serves as the upper surface of saturation zone, whereas low permeability layer serves as lower surface. Impermeable layer comprises of clay, shale, solid limestone, igneous rock, or bedrocks. Unconfined aquifer can also be called as free aquifer, phreatic aquifer, water table aquifer, or non-artesian aquifer. Thickness of water table varies with slope depending on areas of recharge and discharge, pumping of wells, and permeability. And there are a few aquifers which is called as artesian aquifer and perched aquifer. Artesian aquifer are water rises in pipes, maybe to the surface. These are called artesian aquifers. But what is known as a perched aquifer? These perched aquifer underlain by low permeability unit. If a groundwater body is distinguished with main groundwater by means of an impermeable strata of small aerial extent and zone of artesian, then it is called perched groundwater. So next we will move on with the physical characteristics of water. The physical characteristics, main important physical characteristics of water is total solid, turbidity, color, taste and odor, temperature, pH, alkalinity, and hardness. What is total solid? The total solid in water are in the form of inorganic salts of carbonate, bicarbonate, chloride, sulfate, nitrate, potassium, sodium, magnesium, calcium, clay, silt, and other soil constituents. The solids in water are of the following types. We can say like total dissolved solids, settlable solids, suspended solids, total solids, and volatile solids. So there is a separate experiment in water and wastewater analysis lab to find total solids, where we'll take a water sample, we'll keep it in an oven for 120 degrees centigrade for 2 to 3 hours, and then we'll take the sample in a china dish. We'll measure it using a physical balance. Then we'll keep it in the oven, and then we'll measure it in the physical balance, the weight of the sample, and then it will be kept in the muffle furnace under 550 degrees centigrade for 30 minutes, and again the same sample will be measured for weight in the physical balance. So similarly, we'll do it for remaining processes. So likewise, we'll check the total solids. And how to find the turbidity? What is known as turbidity? The turbidity in water is caused by the suspended and colloid materials. It's because of growth of microorganisms or clay, silt, finely divided organic and inorganic matters, plankton, microscopic organisms, and soluble colored organic compounds. And color is also one of the very important physical characteristics of water. The color of water is imparted by foreign materials such as organic matter from solids, soils, vegetables, or vegetations, minerals, aquatic organisms. Then taste and odor, very important physical characteristics of water. The objectionable taste and odor in water are caused by different types of substances such as minerals, metals, salts, decaying organic matter, releasing the rotten egg smell of hydrogen sulfide gas, algae, and other microorganisms, and various constituents in wastewater. Then temperature. The temperature of water affects its characteristics such as thermal capacity, density, specific water weight, viscosity, surface tension, specific conductivity, salinity, solubility of dissolved gases. pH, a very important physical characteristics of water. The pH of potable water must be in the range of 4 and 5, 4 and 9. Increase in acid inputs in water can lower the pH. The condition which favor increase in acidity of water are acid mine drainage, atmospheric acid deposition, and alkalinity. Alkalinity of water refers to the ability of water to neutralize the acids. The alkalinity in water is caused by bicarbonates, carbonates, hydroxyl ions from the carbonate and bicarbonate compounds of sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. And finally, hardness is very important physical characteristics of water. What is hardness? The hardness in water is caused by the salts of calcium and magnesium dissolved in water. Reports indicate that iron, strontium, and manganese also contribute to water hardness. The chemical characteristics in water include inorganic substances in water like calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, aluminum, boron, iron, manganese, phosphorus, etc. So these are the physical characteristics of water. Next, we'll see what is the maintenance of purity of water. So the maintenance, the very important for maintenance for purity of water is development of catchment area. Very important for maintaining the water. First is development of catchment area. The second maintenance is recycling of water in industrial plants. Third is development of civic sense among people. Fourth one is restriction of drainage system. So development of catchment area. See, first, when the water is under flow, it carries lot of dust particles, waste, microorganisms, algae, etc. etc. So when we make a catchment area, when we develop a catchment area and when we store this flow of water in a particular pool, the dust particle will settle at the bottom. This is how we can able to maintain the first initial step for purifying the water, development of catchment area. 2. Recycling of water in industrial plants. Recycling in the sense we can say treatment of water. There are different processes like skimming chamber. When we pass this flow of water to the skimming chamber, it just screens, first at the screening stage, it screens the water from the impurities, and then it goes to skimming chamber where it is grinded, the solid particles will be grinded there, and then it is sent to aerobic or anaerobic process where oxygen bubbles will be passed over the water so that there develops some bacteria, and the heavy particles will settle at the bottom, and then filtration, so we'll say flocculation process, and finally chlorination, and finally discharge. This is called recycling of water in industrial plants. And then next process is, you can say, how can we purify water? Because maximum water gets pollutant because of the common people who survives in and around the river area or streams. So when we give some knowledge or education to the local area, local people, when we develop the civic sense among the people, when we educate the people, definitely they will not pollute water streams, rivers, or ponds. So this is one of the maintenance of purity of water. Last one is restriction of drainage system. So drainage water, the sewage water, the water will be used by the people and then it is being passed to the sewage system. So what happens? Finally, these water when they pass through the pure water, river streams or the ponds, definitely the pure water also will get affected. So we should restrict the drainage system. We should make that sewage water for another treatment purpose, and we have to. There is a treatment process, sewage treatment process, where the sludge has been segregated. It has been divided from the water, and the water has been again recycled, and it can be used for gardening purposes or even for domestic purposes. So this is how we can able to maintain the purity of water. And the last topic of this unit is the water quality standards for drinking purpose as per BIS standards, the Bureau of Indian Standards. So government of India has different ministries to maintain the standards for the water quality. One, Ministry of Water Resources; two, Ministry of Urban Development and Poverty Alleviation; three, Ministry of Rural Development; four, Ministry of Environment and Forest; five, Ministry of Health. The drinking water quality standards refers to a reference point for standard setting and drinking water safety. Drinking water is the potable water meant for human consumption for drinking and cooking purposes from any source. It should be of highest purity to meet the health needs of community. The Bureau of Indian Standard Specification IS 10500 1991 governed the quality of drinking water supply in India. This is based on international standards for drinking water quality issued by World Health Organization. A number of government agencies are responsible to foresee this availability of drinking water of adequate quantity and potable quality. So first let us take Ministry of Water Resources. The ministry is responsible for planning and development of water resource, right from the policy formulation to infrastructure support. The Central Groundwater Board keeps track of quantitative and qualitative data of groundwater sources. So this is the responsibility of Ministry of Water Resource. Then Ministry of Urban Development and Poverty Alleviation. This ministry is involved in monitoring drinking water quality in urban setup by a well qualified, experienced multidisciplinary team of urban planners geographers, analysts, and management experts. And then Ministry of Rural Development. This department of drinking water in this ministry looks after the drinking water quality in the rural area of the country. So this is the purpose of Ministry of Rural Development. And then Ministry of Environment and Forest. This ministry is responsible for monitoring the water quality of main rivers and big water bodies with assistance of Central Pollution Control Board and State Pollution Control Board. And finally, Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health is responsible for drinking water surveillance in selected areas. Other government agencies like the Ministry of Power, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Industry, and Indian Council of Agricultural Research look into various aspects of water resources. Let's see some examples, like the water quality standards in India recommended by Bureau of Indian Standards. See, as per the Indian standards, BIS standards, the permissible limit of color in drinking water should be 5 to 25 Hazen unit. The odor is no objectionable, and the turbidity should be 5 to 10 nephrometer turbidity unit is the permeable limit. Then the pH value, the permissible limit for the pH value is obviously 6.5 to 8.5. The total hardness should be 300 to 600 milligram per liter. Same way, iron, the permissible limit for iron is 0.3 to 1 milligram per liter. Chlorides should be 250 to 1000 milligram per liter. Similarly, for every components like copper, magnesium, sulfate, fluoride, every components or the characteristics permissible limit have been framed by Bureau of Indian Standards. So with this, I conclude this unit 1. Thank you.